Dr. Rambam, Hilchos Avoda Zara, Perek Aleph. So this.
You're listing all the sources?
Oh yes, of course, yes. So Avoda Zara, Chus HaGoyim, the laws of Avoda Zara and the ways of the Goyim and how not to follow their ways. The Rambam first lists all 51 mitzvahs. Yesh b'chol achad chamish mitzvahs involves 51 mitzvahs. Ten mitzvahs had 2 positive mitzvahs. Rotation of Abba mitzvahs and 49 negative mitzvahs. This is, I think, the biggest ratio of negative to positive mitzvahs and all the. Is there a point here? Aleph. Not to stray after Avoda Zara. What does that mean exactly? We'll see. Not to stray after the thoughts of your heart and the viewing of your eyes. As we'll see what that means specifically. Gimel shlo the God if not to curse Hashem. Dal shlo not to serve idolatry in its normal fashion. Hey, shlo not to bow to it, normal or not normal. You know, whether or not that's the way to serve it or not, it's irrelevant. But shlo is pesla not to make Avoda Zara for yourself. Zayin shlo is a pesla filachem not to make Avoda Zara for someone else. Chesh shlo is truest lafilanoim not to make an image which is considered idolatry, even if it's not for Avoda Zara, it's just for decoration. Making it if it's considered surah, as we'll define it, is considered also test. As a kid, I remember we had a cookie jar. It was a dog, like a dog. You take the head off. My father broke the nose, but because I think his elders did the same thing. I think I'll be did it if the person. Okay, anyway, not to make other people over here. Ladiach means the whole city specifically, not to make a city straight of Avoda Zara. If that does happen, it gets straight. We're doing the mitzvahs of Moshe. To burn down the city. Not to rebuild that city. Huh? Yeah. Right. Number one is right with you. That's a negative. Yeah, we'll see the positive. Not after it's burned down, or if it's not burned down before it's burned down, not to benefit from any of its monetary assets. Not to make an individual also straight up the Zara. If it's an individual, it's called mesis. For a city, it's not to love the mason. In other words, even though it's a love every Jew, he's an exception. Not to love a missionary. They say not to refrain from hating this missionary. Unlike a regular Jew, you're not allowed to hate. Not to save him if he's in danger in any fashion. Not to give benefit of the doubt in the court case when he's being tried. Is if he's seen drowning, let's say. Is in the court proceedings, I believe. The Lam's going to tell us all the details, right? Not to refrain from advancing an argument against him to connect him. Not to prophesize in the name of Avoda Zara. Even if it's a true nevuah, the Eibishter spoke to the Navi, and the Navi repeats it, but he says the name of Avoda Zara. So he's not a Navi Sheker, but it's still usher. Not to listen to a Navi who prophesies in his name, not to prophesize falsely. How is that coming with Avoda Zara? Good question. But the Ram But the Ram says that just prophesying falsely goes in this section. Hilchos Nevuah was in the Torah, if you remember, the qualification of a Navi. But the Avera of prophesying falsely is considered idolatrous because usually it's done as a way to get people to follow you as opposed to Hashem. I think that's the reason. Not to refrain from killing a false prophet. Not to swear the name of Avoda Zara. Not to do the idolatrous witchcraft of Oiv. Not to do the idolatrous witchcraft of Yedeni. Not to have your children pass the Avoda Zara of the fires of Melech. Not to establish a platform where people. Oh, it should be a monument, not a platform they bow down. A monument they gather around to worship Avoda Zara. That's not to bow down on this platform for bowing down for Avoda Zara. Not to plant the tree, which is a Avoda Zara tree. Asher could be Avoda Zara tree they worship, or they gather around the tree to worship a getchka. To destroy Avoda Zara, anything so.
And here's the second.
To destroy Avoda Zara and everything that's made for its purpose. Not to benefit from Avoda Zara and its accessories. Not to have benefit from the tzibah nevad. So the mishamsha is the things that serve it, like the purposes of serving, and the tzibah is more like the accessories, like the jewelry and things like that. Not to make a covenant, a treaty with Avoda Zara, with idolaters. Not to give them grace. Not to. We'll see what that means. What does it mean to give them grace? Not to be graceful towards them. Not to be graceful towards them or to see them gracefully. Not to let them live in our land. Not to copy the goyim by the way they dress, by the way they conduct themselves. Not to copy the idolaters. Not to do the witchcraft of Nachesh. Not to do the witchcraft of Yiksem. Idolaters. These are all different idolatrous witchcrafts. We'll see what they mean in detail. The Matesh don't have to do the idolatry of superstition of the times. Friday the 13th, right? It's bad luck, yeah. But depends. My father, I think, was born on the Friday the 13th, so he always say, for me, it's lucky day. I always found money. Not to do the Avoda Zara of Chever, which is contacting the dead. Not to contact the dead that way. Not to do the so. We learned before about Oiv as being a sorcerer. Now I'm not the sorcerer. I'm going to the sorcerer. I'm paying him. The lady with the shmat on the head with the cards. Like you're not. She's the usher, and the going to is also usher. What's it called? A psychic, whatever. Yeah, all these things. Yeah. Not to ask for their through them. Not to ask for not to do witchcraft. Not to. Cut off the corners of the head, not to cut off the payas. Not to cut the corners of the beard, because the Avoda Zara priest would do that. We see how important to hear. I give a beard over here is because Rambam puts in the Mamash Avoda Zara. That's the section where it belongs, which is we see why it's treated with certain seriousness by most of them. Head to this, head to that, but it's. Man should not wear women's clothing. A woman should not wear man's clothing. Not to make a tattoo. Not to do the gashing one's flesh when one person's mourning. Then 51 not to gash. Sorry, so this great is something else. Two different types of. I think it's going to maybe bald spots. I forgot now which one it is. But do two different ways of mourning inappropriately by making the person by injuring oneself or making one's body disformed when a person passes away. We'll explain these bits in these prophets. Perik Aleph. Okay. Here's how the Rambam does not start. He does not say it's a lesson seminary, wish of the Zara, here's the punishment. He gives us a history lesson, history shmooze. Why? So let's just explain like this. It's not sufficient when it comes to Avoda Zara to say, I don't understand this mitzvah. But the Abishur said so, I'll follow. When it comes to Shabbos, that's okay. When it comes to many mitzvahs, that's fine. Avoda Zara, you have to not worship because it has to make no sense to you. You have to believe that Avoda Zara is a shtus. You have to believe this is Hashem. If I say to me, Avoda Zara makes perfect sense. But Torah says no, that's not appropriate. Person has to know logically why it's silly. And part of that, besides for all the reasons that Rambam gave us to believe in Hashem and what the truth is in is to understand the historical fallacy. How did this come to be? Hashem created Rishon, one person, and he knew the truth. How did Avoda Zara come to be? Like, what's the so the Perik Aleph is really that story, and then who discovered the truth, and how do we have the Mishnah Torah today? Right, the Rambam telling us the truth. What happened between Rishon and the Rambam? That's Perik Aleph. Well, almost the Rambam. We'll get there. The May Enish in days of Enish, Adam Rishon's youngest son, humankind made a big error, big mistake. Even the smart chacham of that der became confused. The Enish himself was one of the people who made the mistake. His was the error. Since Hashem created these stars, heavenly bodies, and the round spheres that rotate them, as the Rambam holds, right, to conduct the world. Meaning they have a certain influence. The Ram doesn't hold necessarily. We know the Ram Mashita about Mazalis, the influence that the Mazalis have in the world. Here it sounds like Lahanigas Elam means they do have influence. It could also just mean that they have the sun has an impact, obviously, right? Things grow from the sun. Okay. When somebody Hashem placed in the sky, if you honor them in that fashion, they serve him, so to speak, before Hashem, right? They do Hashem's bidding. All this is true. That's not their mistake. What was the mistake? They said, we should praise them and glorify them and honor them. That was their mistake. They mistakenly thought that's Hashem's will. To honor and extol the person Hashem honors and extols. The fun of the king wants the people to respect his servants who stand before him. This is a way of honoring Hashem. That was their mistake. Why was that a mistake? Because the truth is that since they have no bechira, there's no honor that they deserve, no recognition they deserve. They have that was for the higher part of the mistake was they thought that they had that the sun and the moon have a certain
spirituality of its own.
Spirituality of its own, but a certain their own power, right? Their own choice, yeah. Okay, since this matter rose upon their heart, this thought had to start. Step 2 was they began to build for these stars different palaces or sanctuaries. The Hakavan Kavaras offers sacrifices to them, not just to Hashem, but to them. To praise them with words, and to honor them this way. So once they have to honor them, how do we honor them? We honor them by the way we honor Hashem in a smaller way, offering karbanis. Again, because they're Hashem's service, not because Hashem doesn't exist. Right? We bow to them, etc. Praise them. In order, this helps us to perceive Hashem's true will, which is B'dai Tamara, and their mistaken notion to honor them.
Who came up with the idea of bringing carbonas in those days?
All the Mishnah Kabbanos.
Right.
Yeah. This was the basic first step off course of Avoda Zara was the people who served it, who knew the fundamentals of it, who believed in these fundamentals, wrong fundamentals, said, not that Hashem doesn't exist in the star, that sun is the God. But Hashem placed him there. This is Yirmiyahu says, who does not fear you, the king of the nations? In other words, even the goyim fear you, Hashem. For you it's appropriate. Because among all the scholars of the goyim, the wise people, all their kings, no one is like you. But with this one thing, they are destructive or astray, and they're silly. They believe that there's the lessons of fallacy is in the tree. Everyone knows that you, Hashem, are alone. Their silliness is, in other words, you are Hashem alone, are the ultimate. Everyone agrees Hashem is the one ultimately in charge. But they think that honoring these people is the silliness of your will. That's what Yirmiyahu was referencing. So that was step one. So people would honor these vice gods. That was the idea. Base. After the days, after a long time passed, the false prophets arose. They said, Hashem commanded them and told them, serve this star in this way. All the stars, they offer sacrifice to them. Do this, pour the wine to them this way. Build this sanctuary. Sorry, that's not the end quote. They built a sanctuary for the star. According with the Nubuah, they made an image of what the star looks like, because you can't see what the star looks like, the Shemayim. So people should bow to it. The women, the children, and the common folk. So the Chachamim knew that they believed that the statue is a statue, it's nothing, but it represents the star that we should appreciate and worship. But they don't understand the stars, so we make them a statue they can relate to, and that's all about to that. That was for the common folk. Right, the best dimension knew that it's really it's about the sun and the moon. They would have how should they make it? Oh, this is what it looks like. They would have some kind of just hakachainik that they decided it's supposed to look this way, that way. This is the image of the star. It looks like that was been formed in my nevuah, in the prophecy. They made these types of images and palaces, sanctuaries, on the trees, on top of mountains, and on the hills. It's like certain, designated places where it's like, for the Avoda Zara. They're together battle over there. This surah does you good if you were bad based on how you serve it. Fear it, serve it, etc. Okay, and the priest would tell them, through this service, that's how you'll get. You'll increase and have success. Do this, don't do that. All these different rules. So what we have over here. So now we have priests who know that the star is above Maisa, that the statue is above Maisa. They know that the statue never spoke to it. The star never spoke to it. But they believe it's supposed to be served in some fashion because Hashem wants to do that. But they also want to get on it because they want to sort of cover the stomach. So they told the common folk that this is how you're supposed to serve Hashem. So they kind of, to get them on board, they gave them like specifics, which they knew not to be true. They told them, this is what it looks like, here's how you serve it. These are all ways of getting them on board with this path, which they thought is Hashem's ratzon. Again, but also partially because they wanted to be, the person in charge. Oh, Adkan, they're claiming they had nevuas from Hashem about how to serve the star looks like. Now this false prophets arose, liars, Kazim arose, and they said that the star itself, or the Galgal itself, or the Malach spoke to them and told them, "Avduni kach kach, this is how you should serve me," says the son of the moon. Yeah, and told them how to serve. So till now, as Hashem told me, this is how you serve the moon. Here's what the moon looks like, and here's what you got to do and don't do. Now they say the moon told me, here's what you got to do. So another step away from Avoda Zara. Don't do this and that. This spread in the world. It became famous in the world to serve the different images in these different ways, different services. Who was the first person who thought about the idea of Melech? The person who decided that the site of Aish is one of the gods, and then he decides that's how you serve it by giving your kids. Okay, it's not I don't know. I'm just thinking. Or the hakol hand to offer to them, mishach is about to them, the kivin shoch yom with a lot of time. Again, the idea was not to forget Hashem, but with time, what was the focus? The stars that we believe give the hashpah to the world. Or for the common yoklach, common folk, through the statue itself. That's the one that is actually the one that is influential. Yeah. So the different levels of people are always at the same time. Even Ad Hayom among the Avoda Zara of Hinduism and Buddhism, there's like you ask the great Chachamim, they'll tell you, like they have this statue. That's what they think, but really we know it's not the statue; it's the statue's energy. In whatever. But so there's still this concept of the hierarchy of who's more stupid, who's more informed, still exists. Yeah. All right. So, with a lot of time, Hashem, the great honorable Hashem, was forgotten for most of those who exist and from their minds. They didn't know about him, all the common folk, women and children, they only knew about this image of stone wood or the sanctuary. They were educated in their youth. Done to bow to them, right? You got up in the morning, you got to have breakfast, you got to first give books of the Getchka, and then give you breakfast. Right? That was the process. Shalva swear their names. The smart people among them, the priests. Oh, I said this already, yeah. Right? So the common folk thought that the statue is God. The Chachamim, they thought that the statue is nothing. It's the star in Shemayim who's really the God. The Galgal is the God, who is Hashem. Right? For which we make these statues to the people who don't appreciate, don't understand anything else. The rock of the universe, Hashem himself, no one knew about him or knew of him. Certain unique special individuals. Right? These were, Noach, Shem, Be'ever. That's how it was. You were always special people, unique individuals. Until what happened to Avram. Avram was born. He was also Avram. So these were Adam Sheish. So actually Enish. How did Chanech know if Enish didn't know? Adam Sheish Enish. Kain Mahala Yored. Right. Who was next? Chanech Mishalach. Right, something like that. That's how it goes. Yeah, a kid said, I don't know exactly what the maybe Adam taught Chanech's children. I'm not sure exactly what the. But upon there were Yechidim who did know the truth, not from their own thinking like Avraham Avinu found it on his own, and then connected to those who know. These people knew from the Seder. They kept the Seder. Why didn't tell anybody else? Whatever. They weren't. Now about Avraham Avinu. What happened about Mabel? The Chayda, everyone was wiped out. Only Noach survived. Didn't he teach his children about Hashem? So he says here Noach and Aver. So Noach and Shem. That Cham and Yafes, certainly Cham and Yafes as well, didn't bind completely. They were somewhat of the Avoda Zara. They didn't teach the kids the truth of what Noach taught them. They did not teach the kids the truth of Avoda Zara. Right? So they kept this going. Otherwise, after the Mabul, how did it continue? Who reinvented the Shlush after the Mabul? Enish's mistake was erased. Vaistais that Cham and Yafes, or at least Cham for sure, Yafes probably also, did keep some kind of Avoda Zara. Okay? Derech Agav, in the children's in the library of the East Park in Schenectady, there's a set of books it's like a encyclopedia of cultures for kids. It's like very basic, about all. You have like every kind of ancient civilization, the Aborigines in Australia and the Eskimos in Russia, and they all have their all of them start with a story. There was a big flood. Every single one of these cultures starts with the same Maisa. It was a great flood. Everyone has their own shtus of why it started, but see, this is a universal belief among all. Okay, I could say so. So that's then came Avraham Avinu. What happened then?
First, Hashem sat with the family office for a full year in a table.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they did, but then afterwards they couldn't. They went back to their. I'm not sure. Good question. Gimel. Once this great strong individual was weaned right from his mother. He was 3 years old. Yeah. He began to think. He was a thinker. He was asking. He would think day and night. This was plaguing him. He was wondering. Right, this Galgal, which I guess they learned about these, they were talking about the Gachavim, the Gagalim, like Ram told us. He said, "Yeah, Torah, Perik Gimel, right? Was it right or base? This whole concept, right? It turns, and that's how the universe works. That's how the stars give hashpah to the world. But who turns the outermost goggle? It rotates by itself. Who rotates it? It can't rotate itself. Nobody gave him a straight answer. Right? It turns itself. They everyone believed. Like they didn't know about Hashem. He didn't have a teacher. He didn't have a shliach over there. He didn't know and taught him anything. He was sunk in Urkazdim, in that place, among idolatrous fools. His mother and father and everyone else was serving idols. He served among with them. That's how he was raised. I think there's a letter from the Rebbe somewhere with somebody who was brought up either not firm or not. He was brought up as a Christian and he couldn't deal with it. I think there are references this to him. This Avoda Zara also was brought this way, I think, and you see that if you have a bit of accomplished something like that. I'm remembering something like vague. Okay, believe in his heart is constantly discovering and swimming and understanding. On his own, he came to comprehend the truth. He went backwards. He finally realized, no, the statue is not God. It must be the sun itself. The sun is not God. This whole chase, he undid it. He went backwards to the original truth of Avinu. Right, and he understood the haven and he went in the proper path in his own proper understanding. But the other and he couldn't understand there's only one true God. He turns the goggle. He clear everything. Nothing is found except for this God. There's no other deity except for Hashem, the true Hashem. The other he can't understand everyone's making a mistake. And he can't understand how did everyone make this mistake? Where did it come from? He learned the history. He uncovered this whole all the history. I don't know exactly if it says somewhere he met up with Noach or with Malki Tzedek and got the full story from them. Eventually, I think he did. I don't know exactly what. I think this was Joshua about it, but I don't know the. Those who serve the stars and the images till the truth was lost from their hearts. He came to understand his creed. He was 40 years old. Now there's different opinions. In the verse, there's different levels of coming to understand, right? Because he went backwards. So, but the 40 he achieved the ultimate understanding, the chayda of what the Rambam says in the first parak of there's only one Hashem. The other one said he stood and he knew this. Now, people knew it also, right? We said Chanech knew it, Noach knew it, Shem knew it. Avraham Avinu knew it too. When he came to understand, he just didn't sit it by itself. Unlike them, he began to arrange debates at the universities. The people were meant to debate with them. He shot up, a table over there, right? Prove me wrong, like that guy who goes to campuses. Yeah, this is what he did to talk about Hashem. You're not going the proper path. He broke the getchkes. He began to tell the people, it's only fit to serve the God of the world, Hashem. To him it's fit to bow, offer, and pour wine. He did this because he wanted all the coming generations, the future generations, or Habayim maybe could be in future. Habayim could also mean those who came to him. I'm not sure. But it's fit to destroy and break all the images, because no one should make this mistake. Like those people make a mistake. There's no other God except these images. By breaking them, nothing happens. That they're not really as powerful as you think they are. So he's going to help them sort of undo their mistakes. And once he began to win these debates and began convincing people, the local king, of course, Nimrod, we know, decided chose to try to kill him. A miracle happened to him, but and then afterwards he went to Charan from Urkaz. And there, over there, where apparently he had been the king who was angry at him, couldn't do anything to him, he began to stand and voice to all the people. To tell them there's one God in the whole world. To him it's fit to serve. He would go constantly, call out and gather people together early into the city. From country to country, kingdom to kingdom. Until he reached Eretz Canaan. Now, was he dafa going to Eretz Canaan on purpose? So it happened to get. What was the reason why he dafa went there? So the Ram doesn't tell us the reasons. Okay, and he's still calling out in the name of Hashem. There's the mitzvah tank, yeah, go traveling around. Hashem, it says, he called out there in the name of the God of the world. So the Ravid actually says, right, the Shem and Aver were there. How come they weren't making it to Avoda Zara? So he says, could they were, but nothing came out of it. Or they didn't break the getchkes because they were because they were like mischavoyim mehem. They were like part of that. They were like their friends. They were too intimidated. They were too nice. You have to be nice to people. You have to talk nicer to them. You can't break their geshkas. They weren't willing to do that. If I'm a Avinu said, I have no problem breaking the geshkas, right? Sometimes you got to be not so nice, right? If you're a shliach, right? Okay. Yeah. When people gather around him, they ask him about his opinions. He informed every individual according to the best of his understanding. They brought him back the proper path. From Rabbis, he had hundreds and thousands, tens of thousands of followers. They are the people of Avram's household, which is Lashon Pasuk in Lech Lecha, Perek Zayin Lach Gimel, right? Anshe Beis Avraham. Yeah, that's reference Benegea. What Benegea? The Bacham with the 5 kings or something. Okay, that was his people. Avram had a following, a massive following. Shasa believe on Mikra God Lazan. He implanted in his heart this tremendous principle. The Chibur is Svarim. Avram wrote Svarim. Oneness of Hashem and the Yisrael of the Zar. He wrote many Svarim. The idea is he informed his son the truth of it. Yashiv Yitzchak Malamed Machzir, and Yitzchak also taught and brought people back to the way of truth. Yitzchak Yaakov appointed Yaakov, and he appointed him to be a teacher. The question is, was this before the brachas, after the brachas? So the question, whatever. Yash, even before the brachas, he thought he would get Yisrael involved as well. Okay. Now Yishmael, Avraham Avinu saw that he wasn't going in that path. He was hoping, but okay. Yashim Lamed Machzir, calling him love, and he would again teach and bring back the proper path whoever would come close to him. Now, it sounds like over here that Avraham Avinu's followers, when he passed away, went to Yitzchak. But it says other places that they couldn't. It was a different approach. Yeah, Yitzchak had to start from scratch. He also had followers with Chayda. But okay, now let's talk about that. Yaakov Avinu Lima couldn't back Avinu taught his kids. Now, obviously, taught the world. But at that point, when he had 12 shvatim, he was busy teaching the truth to his own children. So I don't know, maybe he was involved in teaching the rest of the world a bit less. Now, Avraham Avinu, it's not clear, but that was his primary focus, is teaching his children. The Hilda Levi Menu Reishi, he appointed Levi as a Rosh Hashiva. It's his job to carry on the legacy of Avraham Avinu. Yeshiva Lamed Hashem, he appointed him in the yeshiva to sit there. His job was to teach Hashem's way to the world, and specifically to Yaakov's descendants. Lishma mitzvah Avram, and to guard the mitzvah Avram, to guard the path of Avram. He told his kids, you should always make sure that it's from Levi's descendants should be the person who's going to be the teacher among you. So the concept of Shevet Levi and Kahanim and Kohen Gadol, all that was already before Matan Torah. So you find the Malucha belongs to Yehuda, but the concept of a ruchnistic manhig was always a concept that was going to be a part of the destiny of Shevet Levi. Okay, this should not be forgotten. This matter continued this way and became stronger and more robust among Yaakov's children, and stronger, and all those who gathered around him. Yeah, so he was teaching the world as well. But now, there was known as these nations, the Hebrews. They were serving on one Hashem. Of course, we know they went down to Mitzrayim, and that was the way it maintained that way. But however, eventually, after a long time, especially after that last of Yaakov's children passed away, after Levi passed away, which was 86 years before it's Mitzrayim, I think, right? The Chazal they began to learn or go back to their old habits of mitzvah, of the other people in the mitzvah, especially. But to serve idols, as the other people. Shevet Levi, they were the seat of the teaching. They did not get caught back in them. All even were in Goshen, but they didn't get involved in Avoda Zara. So you see, they were in the Avodah. They were both Bagashis and Baruchis saved from it. Okay, yeah. But the mitzvah Avis, they stood by the mitzvah, the path of the Avis of Avam and Yitzchak and Yaakov. And there was basically a cut, I think means was severed. I'm not sure. What's it? Cut. Yeah, okay, it was a drop. Okay, right. They were a very small segment of Klal Yisrael. And the fundamentals of Avraham Avinu were uprooted, unfortunately. And the children of Yaakov went to the mistake of the nations and their errors. However, so then how do we have we are today? Hashem is love to us. And Hashem is guarding the commandment, the oath, excuse me. Also, Moshe Rabbeinu, he's made Moshe Rabbeinu, the master of all prophets, and he sent him. Moshe Rabbeinu came and told us this is not the way. He taught us, reminded us of Avraham Avinu's path, took us out of Mitzrayim. The Kivish is now Moshe Rabbeinu. Once Moshe Rabbeinu prophesied, and we, as Rambam told us, in Hilchos Torah, are part of the Nevuah. We saw Hashem spoke to him. Hashem chose us. That's why we heard the Nevuah to Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai. The mitzvah is idea. He brought us back to the path of Avinu, crowned us with the mitzvahs, and told us the way of serving Hashem. And what is the technicalities, the laws of Avoda Zara, and those who serve it. So this is how Avoda Zara existed and how Hashem took us out, but it still existed. There were still people in the world after Matan Torah who worship Avoda Zara, and therefore we have to have mitzvahs and Torah, how it still exists and how you have to make sure not to do it.
Bottom line,
What is the Rambam's mocker that Yaakov appointed Levi to be the one
It's a good question. What does he say over here? What's Geshenda? It's probably the whole thing didn't. Let's see what he says. What is his?
And another shadow. Avoda Zara for fun of latest qualification. Why do you think Avoda?
Well, Levi. Because Levi was the one. He actually Rosh Hashiva wasn't the builder. It's not too much. I don't know. It's the third. You might see. Yeah, it's a good question.
I know what you said about Yehuda being a melech, but
yeah. Avamaish, it looks like it's Shemais Rabbah, the Mocker.
there's also I don't know if there's a Rambam, but it says the Hadar comes out that it's
Yeah. Al Pa'er.
Because it came from the Pachad that he saw their father that they used to serve it. They only saw Tziel's mother.
We look at